Hi, this is Sweet June. How's everybody doing today? Out here going out for my walk. It is a beautiful day up here in Michigan. Beautiful day. Sun is shining. It's actually not too hot out here. It's warm, but it's not super hot. So it's a beautiful day. The trees are looking all beautiful and lush. You know, blue skies. Was some clouds out a little bit earlier, but it's looking good. I'll take as many of these days as I can get. What a blessing. Hoping everybody is doing well. Hope all is well with everyone. And that you're practicing social distancing. And you're washing your hands for 20 seconds. And you're wearing your mask when you go into the store. Still in the pandemic. Numbers have went up since the protests because people wasn't practicing social distancing. But that's not what this video is about. I want to talk about, I've been trying to do this video for the last 2 hours. And I kept getting interruptions. But I want to talk about black women that get killed by the police. Now everybody was out protesting with the horrible thing that the police did to George Floyd. And the officer putting his leg on his neck. It's terrible. It was heartbreaking to watch. And everybody was so moved by that, you know. And he was calling out for his mama and stuff. And everybody was so moved by that. And everything that people of all races, even a lot of white people was moved by it, where they decided to come out of quarantine and take onto the streets to protest and everything, which I think is a beautiful thing. There was a lot of negative things that happened, but there was a lot of good positive things that came out of it as well. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But now they did the situation with Breonna Taylor, where the police raided her home and killed her, shot her to death. By the way, I heard her boyfriend was acquitted because they didn't announce who they was, and to make a long story short, they didn't announce who they was, and in efforts to try to protect his home, he started shooting. He didn't know it was the police, and they took him to jail. And I heard that he got freed of all charges. You get the charges cleared on. So that's great. That's a wonderful thing. But and they put Breonna Taylor on the signs. I've seen people that had Breonna Taylor. They had her names on some of the signs and everything. But now I was looking at the other day. I was Googling when that situation that happened to Breonna was back in March. This situation that happened with George Floyd was in May. Okay, when the situation happened to Breonna, where she got shot to death, you heard about it. It was in the news, but there was no outrage. There was nobody going out protesting. There was no black men out there protesting. It was in the news and they were talking about it. But where was the outrage? There was no outrage. And so that's what I want to talk about. When it happens to black women, and somebody put on Facebook a post and I shared it. It was a list of all the black women that had been killed by the police. And I was sad because it was a lot of names there that I didn't recognize.
Hey, you see the bus go by?
Huh?
See the bus go by yet?
Yeah, it did go by earlier. Yeah. And so Yep. So it really kind of hurt me because I seen a lot of names on there that I didn't recognize. So they had Sandra Bland on there. But so it was a lot of black women that got killed by the police that we didn't know nothing about. Now, mind you, there is some black men that got killed by the police and we didn't know about them either. But when it comes time to protest, it's usually for a black man. But nobody never goes out of the way and protests for black women. So it's like there's that disparity there. When it happens to black women, it's not as much outrage. And they say Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Hashtag. But isn't black women included in that? When they say Black Lives Matter, isn't black women included in that? Black women and black children are included in that. But it just seems like when it happens to a black woman, when this happened to Breonna Taylor back in March, like I said, it was in the news. I heard about it. But there was no outrage. There was no overwhelming amount of people out there that was protesting her death. And she died a horrific death. These police shot her several times. She was shot several times. She died a horrible death. But you heard about it. But there was no outrage. There was no outrage. And so that's what I don't understand. When it happens to black women, where is the outrage? And it just seems like when something happens to black women, people don't care as much. It's like people don't care about black women. What they say, black women's lives, or they say that black lives matter. But isn't black women included in that? Black lives, black women are included in that. So I just wanted to speak out. I wanted to talk about that because it's like there's over 64,000 black women and children that are missing in this country. Yes, 64,000 black women and children that are missing in this country, but it's like no one cares. The news doesn't talk about it. They don't talk about it on the mainstream media. When a black woman comes up missing, they don't go out of the way looking for her. There was a few years back, it was a black lady, you know, city nearby man. It was a black lady. She was a doctor. And she came up missing. And I gotta admit, you know, they went out of their way to look for her, and they were talking about her quite a bit on the news, and I thought that was rare. But they finally did find her, and in the place where they found her was very obvious. It was in an obvious place that they pretty much overlooked, you know, but they claimed they had been out there looking. I mean, they found her in a river that was in an obvious place, you know, where they should have already done checked, you know, but they claimed for weeks that they couldn't find her. So it's like in most cases, 9 times out of 10, when a black woman comes up missing, you're lucky if it even makes a little mention on the news. You're lucky. And it's very disturbing to me because I'm a black woman. I have black women in my family. You know, I have loved ones that are black women. I have friends that are black women. And that's very disturbing to me. You know, my nieces, they're all black females. So that's very disturbing to me. That this seems like they say all black lives matter, but when something happens to black women, there's never any outrage, especially black men. Black men never go up to bat for us. It's like they never go out and protest for us. But black women are always on the front line. When something bad happens to a black man, it's always a large amount of black women that are on the front lines. But usually when it happens to a black woman, you never see black men in large numbers. I'm talking about in large numbers protesting against a particular black woman's death. And so me and my son was having that discussion, and I was telling him, and his viewpoint is a little different. He seems to think that, you know, he's young, and so he kind of doesn't see things the way I see it, because he's young, you know. In other words, in so many words, he tried to say that it's all in our head. He doesn't believe it's as bad as it is, but it is. It's terrible. It's terrible. The sexism against black women in this country is horrible. And a lot of it is coming at the hands of our own men. This seems like nobody cares about a black woman at all. Something bad and horrible. It's just very disturbing to me that something can happen to me, and if my family don't care enough to look for me, then I'm gone. As my sons would say, I'm checked in. You know what I mean? That's what my sons say. Checked in. I use their words. I'm checked in. If my family don't care enough to, my sons don't care enough to come looking for me, you know, I'm pretty much checked in. And so it's sad. It's really sad that, you know, there's a lot of injustice in this world, and it just makes the world even a more scarier place for black women, because we just don't get the same level of concern. Something bad happens. When that happened to Breonna Taylor, there wasn't the same amount of outrage that happened a couple of months before George Floyd. Wasn't the same amount of outrage. They talked about it on the news. Now, it didn't really come to light until the George Floyd protests, and then everybody started, you know, you seen people out there with her name on the signs and stuff like that. Then it came back up to light, which was a good thing. But my question is, if that had never happened to George Floyd, would it just been another situation, another death of a black woman that just would have just kind of got lost in the mist, you know? So it just kind of makes you wonder, you know. And it's a lot of Sandra Bland. We know Sandra Bland, you know, the little 7-year-old girl. I can't remember her name. The ambush did her same way. They broke in her house, police raid, and killed her, shot her to death. I remember hearing about that, but it's never the same amount of outrage. Never the same amount of outrage. And people have protested several times. I've seen many protests against police brutality against black men. I've seen several protests. And black women are typically on the front lines of those protests. But it just doesn't seem like, and then what bothers me is black men always say that we don't support them, that we don't have their back. They always say that we don't have their back, we don't support them. But when it comes to things like this, black women are on the front lines. And we're more loyal to them than what they realize. And they don't even realize it. Or maybe they don't have any appreciation. Maybe they don't realize it, and they don't have any appreciation for our loyalty. That's a dog. Hope he stays behind that fence. So that's all I want to say about that. I see the sun trying to go in for a minute. It looked like a pit. Hope he stay behind that fence. So that's all I want to say about that. I was looking at this house right here. Isn't that a pretty house? That's the cutest house right there. I don't know if it's for rent or for sale, but it's the cutest house. It looks like they're trying to fix it up. Isn't that cute? It's got a little garage. It's nice. But anyway, that's all I want to say. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Hit me up in the comment section. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell and hit the like button. Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are on this video. I'll be coming back at you. Peace and love. This is Sweet Jane.